So puppies have the capacity to override their own fear, and because especially if they don't have very much in their makeup, if they've got two unfearful parents. And so puppies have a tendency to come up to you to say, hi, 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 how are you? I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. But if they're not socialized properly, what will occur is that the instinct will take over and they will be far more fearful than they are friendly. So, you know, a lot of this has to do with what we do when we're socializing. So when we choose for puppies, when we're breeding, what we're trying to breed for is friendliness. You're trying to, and what you're doing, again, is you're overriding fear. But what ends up happening is that sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't work. If we let dogs go back to nature, which is a kick and a half, can't you just see a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel going, I will hunt rabbit? Yeah, you know, there are some that would just be food fairly rapidly. Or an English Bulldog, you know, the ones that have to be helped to mate, they're going to go, oh, forget it. I can't breathe, I can't do anything. So anyway, so what happens is that fear triggers the fight or flight response. So if an animal is trapped, they will fight. If they are not trapped, they will flee ordinarily. And that is triggered by just the fear response. So it is also the reason for a lot of different behavior problems. Phobias like the thunder phobia, that is fear. And in the last 2 weeks I've had a couple of really hard consultations with regard to dogs that are afraid of noises. Because a dog that is afraid of a noise, especially if the noise is a highly repeatable noise, it's quite difficult to get through to the dog and say this noise is not a scary noise. This is actually an okay noise. And in one of the cases the dog was apparently afraid of the house. What likely happened was that there was, you know, maybe a truck backfired outside the house or something like that, and so the dog identified the house, the place where he was, with the noise. So he goes to Tahoe. They have a house in Tahoe and they have a house down here. They go to Tahoe, the dog is fine. Come back here, dog is not fine. I suggested moving to Tahoe. They've got the dog, in this case, they've got the dog on clomipramine, which is Clomicalm, and Xanax, and it's making some inroads on the dog. So you can see how bad the dog is, because the dog will get out of any place. Will climb through windows, will go out and will crash through windows, eats its crate, all that stuff, and it's all because it's afraid. As soon as the people are home, he's fine. And so that's a very strong phobia, and dogs do have phobias. Just basic anxiety or separation anxiety like Strider has. Panic disorder. Panic disorder often goes along with separation anxiety because as soon as the dog feels like you're gone, then they panic. And when they panic, then there's no thought processes going on at all. You've been trying to teach them for the last 10 years that, you know, I go away, I come back. I go away, I come back. And then one day you leave them someplace you never left them before and they go, oh, they're gone forever. I don't think I can cope with this anymore. Fear also causes most aggression. And in fact, there are a lot of consultants who believe that fear is a part of all aggression. And I don't know whether that's true or not. I think that certainly predatory aggression doesn't have any fear in it, but when you think about it, predatory aggression isn't aggression at all. It's, you know, going to go eat food. So, but there might be an element of fear in all other aggression. I don't know. Certainly in most there is. You see a lot of it. So, people who own dogs who have fear, other than those of us who are sitting in here right now, who are just nuts about this kind of stuff. But most people don't recognize fear in dogs. A lot of times people don't really watch their dog's body language at all. In my consult today, I was trying to talk to the woman about the fact that the dog was, what worried me about this particular dog was that she was non-affiliative, she was not friendly. The two of us, besides the owner, in my office, and the dog never once came up to us to say hello. And I said, can you see that this dog is not very friendly? And she goes, no. You know, the dog seems fine to me. And I said, well, if you saw a friendly dog, you'd see the difference, because a friendly dog will do this. You know, shoulder back, wiggle, squint eyes, do a little grin sometimes, the ears go back. So I let Strider out. And Strider walks over to her and he puts his head on her lap and his ears go back and he looks up at her, you know. And I said, that's friendliness. And she goes, oh. She didn't know. You know, as far as she was concerned, the dog was behaving like the dog was behaving, which is indeed the case. But it was causing more of a problem with the aggression because the dog didn't care about people and was afraid of them to boot. Which is, you know, that means I don't care if I bite you. If he likes people and bites them, then he might be sorry. But if he doesn't like them, he's just going to go, I'm going to bite you and that's it. Bye. People often think that fearful dogs are dominant, and there is, you know, the dog whisperer tends to use terms like dominant all the time, whether the dog is dominant or not. So it's an easy thing to do. What bothers me about using the terms dominant and submissive, the way they're being bandied about nowadays and have been off and on for years and years, is that it's taking a rather complex individual species and trying to boil it down to two different attributes, and that's it, dominant or submissive. And that is wrong. You know, so it should be, and I think that people should know that. They also oftentimes will think that bully dogs are fearful. The people who were in yesterday with their pit bull thought that if she kept on going, the woman kept going, it's okay, it's okay, it's all right, because she's saying the dog was fearful. The dog was fearful. Absolutely the dog was fearful. But when it met another dog, it stopped being fearful and just went, so a lot of times people don't quite know, you know, what emotions look like in a dog, what a particular emotion might look like. So, can a puppy be fearful? You betcha your booties. And in fact, in every litter, there's always one more fearful dog and, you know, one more kind of pushy, bold, assertive dog, and then a whole bunch of dogs in the middle. And that is going to that will happen for the rest of eternity because there will always be a variance in temperament in different kinds of litters. Then there's the poor socialization. If a fearful puppy has poor socialization, then they are going to be far more fearful. If a stable puppy has poor socialization, they can often override it. And a good example is a little dog that just got put up for adoption yesterday, I think. It's an English bulldog, old English bulldog, sorry. It's very cute. And from what we know, it was left on a back deck for the first year and a half of its life. They got it over the internet, very nice people, didn't realize that dogs actually require a certain amount of energy, you know, on the part of the person, and so they had pretty much ignored the dog. Well, she's a really stable dog, and she overrode the problems. She's very friendly, and I think she's probably going to be a nice dog. Now, if she had been a temperamentally fearful dog, we would not have had that. She would not have been able to override her lack of socialization. So some puppies are made fearful by poor socialization. If they have a very fearful mama, they're likely to become fearful themselves. So that's one reason why if we have a fearful mama and we want to separate puppies fairly quickly, as long as we know they can get some other kinds of socialization that they need. If they are traumatized when they're a puppy, that will stay with them forever. It never, ever, ever goes away. And then adolescents that suffer trauma can become fearful as well. And trauma, which is important to remember, is trauma in the dog's mind, not in your mind. It doesn't matter what you think. What matters is what the dog thinks. So, for instance, the dog that was afraid of its own house, the woman said, well, you know, if a car backfired, that's not any big deal. It wasn't to her, but it would be to the dog if that was the case. And we'll never know what it was that caused the dog to be afraid of its own house.